Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Good morning to another episode. This is prophecy for the last hour. This is serving meat in a very famine landscaped terrain. Now, today's Parsha, if you're following along, has a lot to do with the word holy, kadosh, be holy. Even as the Father is holy, be holy even as I am holy, says Adonai, Elohim. Now, this word kadosh, in Hebrew, there's a famous couple of verses where the holy angels, in the throne room are going kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy is the Lord God of hosts. See, everything is very intentional in Torah. Three holies, holy, holy, holy. All right, for a reason, because today I want to talk about what's going, I'm trying to give the deeper sod level understanding of our Torah so people can use it as discernment. This is knowledge is power, so to understand better the days in which we live. We are rapidly approaching the end of the age. We are rapidly approaching this final showdown. I don't know, good and evil. The Battle of Armageddon, the War of Gog and Magog, Lucifer or Yeshua coming back, Mashiach and the Antichrist. I don't really care what dualistic terminology you use. Squaring off sons of darkness versus the sons of light. That is the largest spiritual backdrop of what's going on right now. Because remember, there'll be no more middle ground. Everyone's going to have to choose you this day, like Joshua said. Choose you this day, because we're going into the promised land. And you got to decide, which team you're on. Okay. So I want to pack this concept, which is absolutely much more Hebraic. Now, I like to take the sod level, the deeper level understanding, the mysteries, as Paul said, and this idea that comes from the oral Torah of this deeper embedded understanding. On all my videos, I talk about this. Okay. But I want to go into a more biblical Hebraic phraseology, terminology, especially coming from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's more in our text. Actually, if we were taught more correctly what our texts were saying, this comes out. It's so obvious to everyone. But one of the best names for our enemy, let's say this, or the ruler over the sons of darkness, is biblically called Belial, and it comes from these root words, Belial, and I'm going to unpack that in a second. But this is all over the Dead Sea Scrolls literature. And it's such an apt description, not only because of what the words actually say, what they're really implying, and it gives so much more depth and meaning and understanding why the translators are using the words they're using in their context. But versus, so there's a leader, there's Belial, but then his nemesis, the one who's going to actually totally defeat him and all his influences, is the Mashiach. The Mashiach of Israel, which if you're a school Bible student by now, you should understand there are three major archetypal comings, so to speak, manifestations, incarnations, expressions, of Mashiach. It takes three of these archetypes, seriously, to get the whole job of salvation done for all of mankind. All right. I did have a great quote now in context, but anyways, I'm going to try to keep this pretty linear and fairly short. But listen, let me read a little quote here to set the stage. Now, there have been several great patriarchs and numerous Zadokim. All right, I'm using these Hebrew. We got to get familiar, Ephraim, aka Christian, in more of our Hebraic nomenclature, the words used, because it just helps us all get on the same page. And we need to do that fast. We're going to have to fight a very formidable enemy soon and very soon. Seriously, if you're up in a level of cold disclosure, and believe me, if you don't have this level of oil in your lamp, you are not going to stand. It's exactly what Torah is saying. But that's a digression. Now, there have been many great patriarchs and Zadokim, righteous souls who have done incredible work. Their lives are going to have great weight of glory in the coming kingdom because their lives just helped keep, so to speak, the righteous on the planet. Even, their self-sacrifice, from Yeshua as the lamb to Moshe, to Hezekiah, to Isaiah, to Elijah, to Enoch. These people are righteous souls, believe me. But I want to say, most, and really scholarly across the board, the commentators or our sages, those who parse the word, who know how to rightly divide it, will tell you that there are only 3 leaders in biblical history who have archetypally been connected to Messiah and the final redemption. So bottom line, there are a lot of righteous players in this thing, there are 3 archetypes, 3 personages, so to speak, whose life allegorically exemplifies this Mashiach level. All right. The first one, which is the Melchizedek priesthood. This is the priesthood of the firstborn. This was, and I'm not even going to unpack it today because I think people are from Melchizedek. I'm not talking, people get all shook up. There's 2 seem to be priesthoods. You got the priesthood of Aaron, and then you have the priesthood of Melchizedek. But they really are an extension of the exact same priesthood, the exact same birthright, but in different, it says in various times and ways. I mean, this is how it came down during the time of Moshe. He separated out a certain tribe, a certain people group, and he put a designation, literally spiritually, on their heads. These are Haggadols. These are the high priests in that line, and the Levites. Okay, so there is continuity to the story. Number 1. The next one is the Messiah ben Joseph. Now I have a playlist, and I'll put it in the link. I think I have 10 or 12 videos that kind of continue to go in and unpack nuances of this a lot more deeply. But this is very established. Christian, you might not know it. Ephraim, it might be over your head. But this is Orthodox Jewish understanding, which our Messiah, Yeshua, would have had. Absolutely. Paul, James, there's all of the players that we revere in the book of Acts or in the New Testament are really basically, in the first generation, Essene, Nazarene, Torah sages. All right, that aren't missing a trick of prophecy that's being revealed in their day. But so this Messiah ben Joseph, and this is, I'm giving you these are deeply embedded in the mystical writings because this is mystical. This spans time and generations. This is, in time and out of time. We know Yeshua came fleshly, but he's not in his flesh, he is in a celestial realm now. He is in the throne room. He will come back and establish himself in a physical personification as a king. So how does this, okay, unless you can reach this high level that I teach from, which is called Pards, which is, and teaching the soul level of getting wisdom and understanding, it's very hard to piece all this together. But it becomes very simple when you have the correct keys, which is having the correct established exegesis, what the words mean, which has been established for millennium. This the oral Torah. This is what the 70 elders received. This is what every high priest, every Torah sage would receive. It's not that hard. It just takes a lot of diligent study. Either way, I digress. Then Messiah ben David. Now, Messiah ben David is the anticipation right now, really the Mashiach that everybody's waiting for. This is the final. Now, let me just read to this from you. It says, the Mashiach ben Joseph. Okay, the Kabbalists connect these Mashiachs in the final redemption. But let me say this: the Mashiach ben Joseph, he brought atonement for the sin of the Goyim. The Goyim are the lost sheep. The Gentiles contain the lost sheep of the house of Israel. All right, that was, it's what Yeshua said. I've come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Very specific words. I have another whole playlist, about 22 videos on that subject. You need to really get up to speed on that, because that unlocks the whole story of salvation for the last 2,000 years. But these 3 archetypes of David, of Joseph, okay, Messiah ben Joseph, that's Joseph, who is Yeshua as the shepherd, who is a Gentile. He comes out of a Gentile. He is revealed, let me put it this way. He is a revealed in a Gentile setting. That's exactly where Yeshua has found his largest base in these last 2,000 years, in a Gentile setting. All right, and then you have the Mashiach ben David. The difference in the Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben Dawid, the lamb brought atonement for the sin of the Gentiles, the Goyim, but he died in the process. It cost him his life. All right, and that's a whole couple videos in itself. But the Mashiach ben Dawid, what the verse is, he will endure. This is a lot of times also why Judah has always been looking for this king, because this king will put the kingdom back on the top and it will endure. All right. And part of the problem, I'll just say, is, in the first, when Yeshua first came, the corrupt priesthood, the corrupt temple, everything about it was corrupt, profane. It was for money. It was for prestige. It was for bribes and influence. I mean, it really was a corrupt temple system. All right. Headed up by Idumeans, mixed people, weren't even in the lineage of the priesthood. It was completely usurped. This is the point. So when this happened, but today, all right, so I want to just put that out there because I got to tie up a couple of things together. So these three Mashiachs will do a complete work of salvation, and what we're all looking for, and believe me, there is Messiah fever pitch in Israel right now for this Messiah ben David. All right, because everybody's at the end of the rope. This is what I was going to say. During that first century when Yeshua came, the point is they were so corrupt they didn't recognize him because they weren't interested anymore in they had lost patience with the Gentiles. In other words, they were just so oppressive to them. Here are the Romans, and they just had and then you have the Greeks, and they had the Persians, and all these Gentile overlords. They were very tired. They just wanted to, in one sense, you can understand they myopic vision. Just give us back the kingdom. We want the leader who will give us the kingdom back. All right, make us a sovereign when you're done. So this is all part of the backdrop of the story. But these people who ascribe, who believe, who live under the authority of this Mashiach king, they are called the sons of light. That's technically in the text. Versus these who are called the sons of Belial. These are the sons of darkness. Now, this is the contrast. This is the dualism we live in. Both, because everyone has free will, you're operating as a son of darkness or as a son of light. And a lot of times, because of our motivational, sometimes we're light, sometimes our actions are light. They always say they're a mixture. Okay, this concept of mixture is what is going to be taken care of. And you're going to be either wholly light or you're going to be wholly dark. This is the point at the end of the process, and there will be a just judgment. But one of the things that this redemption by Mashiach, I guess my point initially, especially to Ephraim, to Christianity, you need to enlarge your scope of understanding. Bottom line, Jesus Christ, the way most evangelicals understand him, is about a tenth of what is availably known about the role of Mashiach, who will redeem the whole earth. He has a history of 4,000 years in the earth before that. So there are so many, the Christian does a big disservice to themselves by not understanding who this priest, shepherd, will say for the Mashiach and this king is. This is the tetragrammaton. This is Yod He Vav He, the completed work of Christ. Christ means Christos. It means oil. It means the highest level of anointed understanding that you can have. So this is what you want to have. Now, this side, the sons of Belial, on the contrast, this will put you full of light. This will put you full of darkness. See, the contrast is, again, and we're talking, this is why I want to emphasize something here. Now, I know I jump around a little bit, but it's hard because I have to, I keep figuring out, if you say something often enough, maybe people will, kind of begin to hear it. The Bible is very clearly written in Hebraic exegesis, fundamentally, flawlessly, in categorized in 3 levels, 3 worlds in terms of the Adamic man. We live in, there are 3 worlds or spheres in which the Torah totally talks about us. It talks about, see, it's here. It talks about our body, our soul, and our spirit. Those are 3 very, very different Hebrew words with very different Hebrew meanings that relate to very different parts of our persona. The body, you know, the lower parts, the bowels, you know, it's all, this is the nephesh. See, because this relates, these 3 worlds are 3 soul levels. We have definitely got 3 parts to us. Then we have what's called the middle section. This is the heart, and the body parts are right there. The bowels is here. I'm so short. The heart is here, and the mind is here. Our spirit is our mind, our ability to grasp revelatorily, but mentally, intellectually, the concept, the truths of Elohim. Our soul, this world of Yetzirah, our soul, which is which is actually in the Hebrew the word ruach, our ruach, okay, and then our spirit. Wait a minute, spirit is the word neshama. Let me just say, which is the word breath. He breathed into Adam a neshama soul. Nobody else in all creation has ever gotten that. This is all, and I can't even, that's so huge to the storyline. All right. And the soul, ruach, everything has a level of ruach to it, which is a level of soul life, that he made them living entities, living souls. That's what it says in Genesis. I'm always about, go to the Hebrew, learn these words. And the body, the nephesh. So there, you got to understand that every verse is written and alluding to, you know, one of these levels of your soul in what kind, in these different worlds. Let me say, this is all in modern nomenclature. You know, we have what's called, you know, you got your physicality, you have your psychology. Psychology is huge today. We begin to understand, oh yeah, there really is this realm, this emotional, the psyche, psychology, soul level. Okay. And there is also this neshama, this intellectual level. Now, that's where a lot of in secular science, the cutoff happens, because they will, when you get up to the level of the spirit, you're really getting into supernal worlds, and then you're really getting past, quote unquote, you know, the environment of physical nature. Or is there something behind? Is there really a man behind, an intelligence behind? So, but this is foundational to understand how these 3 nets, now what I want to talk about is, we have 3 Mashiachs who are going to save the sons of God, if they so choose. But there are 3 nets, or 3, you know, and it's like a net to catch somebody in, or 3 webs, it would say, you know, like a spider spins a web, or, you know, digs a pit, anything to trap someone in. That's the concept of Belial. Now, Belial is made of 2 root words, Beli and Yal, Belial. Its Strong's is number 1100. It's the root, and shows you this. But this is how the words play out. It's so interesting, because now Beli, it means something that is worthless. It is corrupt. It is wearing out. It is basically, it says, without the light of life. Kind, anything that's in this category. So you see where he talks about the corruption of the soul, or the corruption that's in the present world, or he'll talk about your deeds are worthless. You know, throw them out. You know, and in the last days they're going to be throwing their gold and silver and different things, because and they're wearing out. It says that at the end of the age that the earth, it just sort of wears out like a garment. This is what they're talking. This is the fruit of what will happen. This is the root attribute of this of Belial, that was created to be. He is in the death cycle. This is why he's called the angel of death. This cycle where things eventually, they'll wear out, they'll corrupt, they will be worthless, they will have to be thrown out. That's everything that's in there. Okay, so the Torah uses, if you do a word study, you'll see whether they're talking intellectually, spiritually, or they're using it on the word of your soul, or they're using it in the physical. it's still innately something that is worthless. That's what he's always telling us. Your deeds are worthless. They're not going to do anything for you on the day of redemption. Okay. Now, the other word, Yal, they're putting like a negative and a positive together, because Yal means to gain profit or benefit. So in other words, these things that come from this category that make a son of darkness means that you have propagated, you have something from the dark side, all right? Whether it's a thought, a word, or a deed, it is coming from the dark side, all right? And it is going to be, it will give you no profit or no gain in your peace, your happiness. Wealth that is unjustly gained will be taken away from you at another point in your life. I mean, you will reap what you sow one way or another. Okay. So it's such an interesting word, but this is the most biblical word. I don't know why Christians don't use it. Lucifer, again, that's a Greek word. It has some intrinsic understandings in it, but let's get back again. Belial, do a word study on it. It's very evident in the text. I think it's used 58 times, very clearly. So we can identify from the text and be very clear about it, what we're talking about, okay? Now, I want to say, on the Jubilee year, well, let me just say this, okay, so we've talked about, so these are constantly in conflict with each other, okay? We're working out our salvation with fear and trembling because we are in a huge battle. Even today, our enemy wars constantly against us in our body, our soul, and our spirit. And I tell you, daily, it's getting, this dystopian world today is just unbelievable. I keep scratching my head going, is this really real? But one of the things that I understand is these three nets of Belial. Okay, so now we just sort of unpacked Belial. This, I hope you got that written down or notes there. I'm going to go in and let's just talk about what are these three nets, because these have historically played. This is what the sages have said and have been constantly saying to Judah, who's really the only one who's been in the house accurately all this time, understanding this. The Christians were there a little bit, but I don't want to go there. Anyway, sons of darkness. There are three nets of Belial, three traps. Let's just call it traps. One is wealth. The first one is wealth. Now, let me just say, this is very, very written about many texts. It's in our Torah. It's in many of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's explicitly, you'll see this over and over again, these nets of Belial. It's in the martyrdom of Isaiah, which is an apocryphal work, an extra biblical work, and which doesn't mean it's not biblical or anything. Okay, there's a whole reason for, and I'm going to go into that in this one. But you have wealth, you have fornication. Okay. And you have pollution, or pollution of the sanctuary. Okay. Now, this is something I have to say. Write that down. Three nets of Belial. This is plagues. This is generic to the whole human condition. This is where Paul gets his concept. Look at, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life, these things that keep us from attaining the level of kadosh, holiness in our body, our soul, and our spirit. Now, let me just say the word wealth is the word, obviously you can think of money, but it's always much more, because remember, we're always relating on three levels of our persona. Our psychological level, let's say, our soul, our mental, what we believe, how much truth do we actually know and adhere to and believe correctly, and our bodies. Okay, being clean. This is why usually, they'll like clean and unclean is to help us keep our body clean. All right, keep it holy. But wealth is also prosperity. It goes back to the birthrights. Now there is an intrinsic birthright on the sons of God. All right, from Abraham, the children of Abraham, in this concept of wealth, because it's in the birthright. one of the things is that Ephraim, and this is why we get so plagued, and it's happening today, where foreigners are stripping our fields right before us, which means they're taking our wealth. China is just coming in. It's just like just coming in like an eagle or something and just swooping the nest, just taking it right out of the nest. This is what is one of the curses that will always come on you if you started adhering to the dark side and start using your wealth or understanding your prosperity. Either you invented it, comes from the work of your own hands or something, and you don't understand. You lose sight of the blessings of Elohim and the response that is a blessing. Wealth can be a blessing for the obedient, but it will totally be a destructive, worthless belly force in the life of the son of darkness. But it comes from a root word of the berakah. The berakah, B-E-R-A, berak, which is the word blessing, which is the blessing, the extra blessing that Jacob put on the head of Joseph's son, Ephraim. It's very important. I mean, I have videos on this. You got to understand the little nuances. It's amazing how much error, not understanding a little nuance can create. Versus, the birthright, the right of the firstborn, the Bekarah, which is what Judah predominantly holds. But either way, this is a trap. Israel, like again, at the time of the temple, they were selling. This has happened before. In the church, they're selling indulgences. I mean, thinking that your spirituality is something that you can merchant. Your level of connection to the high God and your system that promises to cleanse and correct and heal the participant, believe me, that was in heavy demand. The Gentiles would pay heavy duty money for that. This is all built in. This is why the temple was so corrupt. All right. But those are all different teachers. But anyways, we have to understand that this, a birthright abused is worse than everything has to be handled correctly. Because remember, the word belly, it'll become worthless. It's something you just got to throw away. Either way. Then the next one is fornication. Fornication, again, this is such an interesting, again, understanding the three levels, understanding how our Torah is written, and most Christians, I know this for a fact, and I will not back down, but you do not have a correct understanding of the divine feminine. Even in the Hebrew, there are feminine and masculine words there for a reason, because there is a God-ordained, instituted dualism going on between male and female. It has nothing to do with our gender. Nothing. All right? It's a system. It's a dualism system of energies, one that gives and receives, and I have a lot of videos on this. But this is what I want to say, because the word heresies, or the word harlotry, close to the word idolatry, what it really dogs down to, it says fornication, which of course, sexual immorality. Flee sexual immorality, which would be in the body category, and even in the soul, lust. See, this is a good one, because you can commit in your body, obviously that's sin. It starts in your soul. It starts with the conspicuance, which I believe was the Middle Age term. It's called lust, the spirit of lust, which is otherwise you're having holy relations. See, this thing, again, there's so much mystery deep into this. The Nakash, okay, you put it together. We're talking about primordial forces within this category. And lust, believe it or not, is an energetic intelligence that if you live according to, you are totally a son of darkness. And all of your deeds and actions and totally are worthless, going to be thrown out in the end, and are not going to do any good and give you any merit before the Father. And your spirit, hey, listen, he told them, don't eat from that tree, which is a phrase. Don't bring in that spirit. Your free will. Do not bring that spirit into your soul, like into your body, into this, and the rest is history. It's all going to come out. But anyways, this is why it's related to marrying foreign wives, because in the Torah, listen to me, in the Torah, the female is equated with, let me put it this way, within the female contains the territory of Belial. That's just how it got happened. Okay. So she gets a bad rap all the time because she has to tolerate this level of activity and infiltration and negativity and uncleanness. And all right, this is who the kinds of our Heavenly Mother. She has gone and followed the children, even into their worst pigsty kind of thing, you know. But she is. So when they're marrying foreign wives, this is the kind of they're taking the truth that they know to be true, and they're attaching it to a foreign, to something that they were told not to. Don't do that. See, what we need to understand is what I'm trying to say. These things are intellectual in the heresies concept. Idolatry, heresies, falsehoods, changing the boundary line, which means to, you know, kind of fudge the truth of Torah, which is very, you know, you don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I mean, how much more clear can you be? Okay? But it's always much more complex than that. So what in this word of fornication, yes, it definitely applies to physical, you know, keep your body members to yourself until you are ready to into a holy covenanted relationship where your offspring will be the offspring of the sons of light, and you can be guaranteed, you know, there's a lot going on. There's a reason why there's so many crazy wacko people in the world. Pollution of the sanctuary. Again, this refers to, and this gets into one of my points I really got to make in this one. Make sure I have this close by. Okay, so this is, so not only, you know, our bodies are the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, of the Holy Spirit. Okay, so we have to keep our bodies holy. We have to keep our soul, like, you know, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little eyes, what you hear. Be careful, little eyes, you know, what you eat, because these things can have bad side effects. All right, it's all working for our good if we would understand it as written. So this is all these different categories of wealth, fornication, which have always tripped up Israel, the people of Elohim. The righteous Gentile too. I mean, I don't care. The people of Elohim find themselves Jew, Gentile, Jew, righteous Gentile, or Church of God. I mean, that's what Paul says. It's still the same today. All right, and people have different levels of understanding, but they can still be a son of Elohim, of God. They can still be a son of the light. But this Belial is also known as this is the angel of lawlessness. He is the angel of the wicked one. He's known as Ha-Satan. Yes, he is known as Lucifer. He is known as the ruler of this world. Now, this world refers to, as I said, these three worlds, but it does refer to really the lower levels here of body and soul, these levels, because Satan, he can't do anything against the truth. He can try to pull you down off of your understanding or your stand on truth, but he can't do anything to change it. This is what we're facing today. It's so severe, they can go in and literally rewire your DNA today. With this whole vaccine passport thing, where you're just going to live, oh my gosh, it's crazy and scary, the level that we have reached of the rewiring of the human genome. It's happened before in the flood. This is the whole point. Now, one thing that's really important to understand, okay, two more points I got to make, sorry. I'm just trying to give a broad picture so that people can connect some of these dots. There aren't 50 million different archetypes talking about all different things in the Torah. You just got to know a few basic understandings, and then make sure your understanding is in the correct level with the correct context and the reference. And then, but let me read this here. On the Jubilee year, which is a big thing, and we are approaching, I know everybody's trying to figure out the exact day and hour, I don't know, but we are approaching quite seriously what is known as the 120th Jubilee. But Jubilees, most people should begin, are extremely important counting cycles, and on their fulfillments, they have incredible, they bring in whole new energy and mazal and open gate, and these things do a lot, but that's a whole other teaching. But basically, I want you to hear that on the Jubilee year, each person will return to his property. Now, that's the Parashah level, okay? You have to understand, and I really hope YouTube, I can find a new platform soon. Somebody can get up where I can get some people like me can get some traction, because YouTube has algorithm me into obscurity. But whatever, it doesn't matter, because I'm still, but this all is done according to a system called PARS. I have a whole playlist on this. This is what I teach, this sowed level, this deeper understanding. I hope this is showing up and I don't gonna have white spots. Hope it's gonna be legible enough. But so on the Peshat level, which is the plain meaning, but that's not the only one there is, Christian. This is why there's a famine of the word going on right now within Christianity, because they don't know that there's all of this in the garden. Because the word pards actually is an acronym for the word garden, the word Eden, which means garden. Okay. Now, okay, so on the Peshat level, yes, it says in each person will return to his own property. And there's this whole economic system where all land will be given back to the original tribal families that originated, that land belongs to. And it's really a brilliant system economically to keep a level playing field, so that you never have generational wealth. You never have these people born into such wealth that they can just rule the world, or such abject poverty. You know, it keeps a level playing, a huge like middle class, which is, you know, a level playing field. But on the more sowed level, it means the soul will return to the body. There's many levels. Once you get the basic archetype, when you move into a different world, a different realm, a different application of, you can go in. So if you go into the soul and try to understand this concept here, and that is what happens at the resurrection, correct? At death, our soul, I mean, I'm sorry, you give me a different definition. Your soul is separated from your body. And in your soul is your animating life force. So if you separate the two, you're just a body. And then a body that who is owned by Hasatan is going to go back to dust from which it came. Elemental, okay? But the soul is in the body. So at the resurrection, we will be joined together. This is the point. Our soul, and believe me, you better, when the roll is called up yonder, or when the books are opened, or however you want to say it, you're going to be caught standing in your spirituality. So as spiritual as you are today, as much knowledge you have of God today, as much effort you put into praising or knowing your creator, is where you're going to be at that level for all eternity. Pretty heady stuff. Even wake up and I would say get pedaling fast, because there isn't a lot of time left. So the land is freed from all leases and returns to its owners. All debts are forgiven. But this is the point where it says that Yeshua ushered in a jubilee. He brought in a redemption level. That, you know, because he died under jubilee, all these, and this is why it says in the last 120th jubilee, it will be finished. Okay, everybody will have had the opportunity ad nauseum, because I teach and I believe it absolutely. It's biblical, orthodox, it's there, it's beautiful, and it helps explain so much. People is quote unquote, the profane word is reincarnation. The Hebraic word would be more like Gilgal, cycle of souls. Okay, very deep stuff, but just want to tell you where I stand, and it's after much study. My opinion comes from much study of the works. Now, this is why it is so important, why the last Jubilee, where the trump will sound at the last Jubilee and all the dead in Christ will rise, there will be a reunification of the soul and the body of all the believers. Those who have died in Christ will be put back together. The Jews, there's a whole tradition called the Luz Stone. You should look that up. That's another great one. Is that going to show up there? Let's put it right here. Just look it up. The Luz, L-U-Z, stone. Okay. There is a little nut of our DNA left behind of everybody. Nobody's lost. Nobody's not going to be able to find. That's what he's saying. Whether you're in the depths of the sea, whether you die by drowning, you know, by being pulled apart by wild ant, whatever, there will be a portion of your DNA in the earth that he will bring and unite with your soul. Pretty incredible stuff. So anyways, this process is going to come to its completion. Okay, now let me just say one more thing. on this 3 traps or nets of Belial. In our Torah, it's also got this other whole huge designated words used for the exact same thing. Because again, this is the archetype. Simplicity breeds complexity. Very simple. But Satan is also called the evil inclination, the angel of death. Now, the evil inclination it's coded, our right side and our left side. I was doing a class last night. I'm doing these so devotionals, teaching the deeper level mysteries, the book of Isaiah and the book of 2 Ezras. 2 Ezras is a total apocrypha book. So it's very exciting to really see these keys in the text in action. And this came up. But the evil inclination is our left side. A lot of the apocryphal texts we read will talk about an angel on the right side, an angel on the left side. Okay. But it's what they're depicting is there are influences that come from the Son of God, who comes from, let me put it this way, we have a godly side and we have an ungodly side, a son of darkness, and they war against each other. And the left side is called the evil inclination. What Paul was talking about when he said, wretched man that I am, I can't seem to get rid of this. But the point at the final redemption on the 120th Jubilee, when that trumpet sounds and all the dead in Christ are going to be raised to what? To eternal life. It's very important that we understand that this Jubilee, this cycle in the reunification, this is called Hebraically the standing up. They don't call it because Adam is the whole point of Adam, he's an upright being. We stand on 2 legs. We are not 4-footed animals. We do not just have a beast soul. We have a neshama. The breath of Elohim makes us an upright creature. This is very deeply embedded in the understanding, and I would love to go deeper, but just trust me, that's where it is. And so as when we stand up and we are reunited, and there's this immortality, this mortality is clothed with immortality. In other words, he takes our mortality, our dust, our elemental, our Luz, and he unites it again with our purified soul at the love. And it's a bond that will never be broken again. Okay, the bond is broken now. At death, one they each go their own way. They come to their own end. Okay, there's so much in the literature if you would just understand. So this was an important thing to understand. Again, there's so much, especially in the rabbinic writings, because their job, the rabbis, is to try to keep people connected on this side. Everything that Israel does, the prayers, the services, the readings, the festivals, and everything is done to keep the people, to keep us connected to the right side, to the Mashiach side, and operating. This is known as the middle pillar. I mean, I'm telling you, this is nobody. I'm not making any of this up. This is all there, and I guarantee you, Christian, if you would begin to embrace some of this understanding, we can put the 2 houses together. And it's going to have to start. We got a lot of doing work in our minds. We are intellectually very far apart on some of these core issues. But what I want to say is we do agree. And the Jews, because they have a higher level of understanding of the Mashiach, believe it or not. Because I know that is so, how can that be? But see, because we understand that the Jesus that is preached to the Gentiles is just that. He's a Messiah to the Gentiles, to the lost sheep. He's not the king in that role. So there's no reason the Jews, they were never lost. This gets into so many different things. And to the Jew, it's like, I'm sorry, but you do not understand the multiplicity of Yasi that is in the world, that he promised he would send a savior to, this Messiah ben Joseph with bread, who would feed them until the promised redemption. We are the multiplied seed. You have the birthright. You are the house of Judah. Never be taken away. I praise you, but you are not the multiplied seed of Yahweh in the earth today. So now let me do this last part. the beginning of, this is getting into really some of the more deeply lyrical, embedded, soul level understandings of the language, of getting back to Bina. Did you know that Bina, and I believe this is correct, Bina is the word understanding. It is the highest level of the knowledge of Elohim that we can attain. This is what the sages, this is what the whole point of this. Bina is one of the sephirah in the tree of life, which is a huge area that I am absolutely majoring in, and going to be, again, launching a teaching series, a whole website full of teachings on this, because it's time for Ephraim to understand this stuff, and because this is all part of the redemption. I don't know which quote to read first, actually, but let me just start at the beginning of the redemption, when it is the time to favor her. That is from Psalm 102:14. Here's just a little, this is a hint. This is a remez. Where there's just something there that's just, wow, that's a little deep. But when it talks about in Psalm 102:14, so you can get that down, it talks about it is the time to favor her. Now, didn't I tell you her, the divine feminine, the Shekinah? This is our mother hovering. This is the immanence of Elohim. That's why the closest of the mother to the child. They're not missing any nuance, but it is our Ruach. It is our heavenly mother, the Ruach HaKodesh, in this role was always with us. And it's the time of her favor. So, Hebraically, if you're in this, quote unquote, this body of Christ, or this Adam cave, if you're more Jewish, you are part of, it is the time to favor her. That means you are in the Shekinah. This is where the word, the called out. You need to be called out from the world and called out into this, quote unquote, it's called the assembly of all Israel. Do you not want to be part of that? Because that's the group that is up in the throne, where we're seen at the end of the book of Revelation. All right. Now, the time of the favor her will occur through Mashiach of the beginning of the redemption. Then hints in the Torah and in the words of our sages of blessed memory will begin to be revealed. So in other words, the time since Mashiach ben Yosef is even known by the rabbis. They call this, and many of these phrases are given by Kabbalistic rabbis, mystical rabbis, who are also believers and understand the role of Yeshua HaMashiach. There's another whole teacher. Some of the most famous Torah minds have gone from being Jews to being Christians and writing some of our greatest work. And I don't mean Christians like they're going to church and sitting under us, no, meaning they get it. They acknowledge it. Rabbi Kaduri was one of the last Kabbalistic rabbis to personally, in this tradition, say, yep. By death, he said, it's Yeshua, guys, I'm sorry. All right. There will come together. There will be a common understanding in our minds of the roles of Mashiach. It's prophesied, so you can't do anything against the truth. It will happen. People will understand the ways of the beginning of the redemption and the footsteps of Mashiach hinted at in the words. See, this is what's called. It's called designated deeds, times, and emissaries. There are designated times for a Mashiach to do something. There is a certain deed. Like I said, he had to come and die for the sins. Well, this is the very important archetype that had to happen. And emissaries. These are the Siddiqs. These are the souls. These are those that come into the world and do these incredible elevations of the soul of mankind. Keep the light on. I mean, I'll tell you. That's why these sages have such high honor, and I get it. And we should honor them, to whom honor is due. But this is in the Sod language, in the coded allegorical language, it is known, like especially in the Song of Songs, which is a highly Sod level allegorical of a lot of this on deep levels. But I just want to say this: the buds were seen on the land. Flowers are souls. That's how. Just trust me on that one, okay? That's how they call it. So if a bud, that means an emerging soul. All right. The buds were seen on the land. The songbird's time has arrived. This is in the spring. This is in the time of this redemption. All right. And the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. Now, the turtle dove is a place word, a cipher, a marker for, again, the divine feminine. In the Tetragrammaton, again, if you're not familiar with my teachings, Yod Hey Vav Hey, there's two Heys in there, the feminine marker. So nobody's making this up. It's so important to get a correct theological understanding. But it says that the voice is heard in our land. And this idea that these souls, these holy Siddiqs that are really, there's going to be a generation. This is the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. You know, I will end on this because that who will have finally made themselves holy, 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 in body, in soul, and in spirit. And they will be able to be in the throne with the angels. Together we will be proclaiming, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb who sits upon the throne, or whatever epithet, you know, you want to give him. You know, Yahweh Elohim, you know, Adonai Sabaoth, the Lord of all the armies. I mean, there's so many, but this is what we're going. And I'm going to really begin to unpack again a little more Messiah ben David, why it's important for Ephraim to know this, so that the enemy, you know, he's a master of muddying the waters. And this whole Christian concept of the Antichrist and a lot of this, I think it's born out of anti-Semitism, inherent, deeply rooted for thousands of years, as the church, quote unquote, replaced Israel and all of this. So I'm all about going back to the root sources, read the original text, try to understand them in their context according to the system the scribe used, and see if we can ferret out more of the truth. So on that note, shalom, and I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll be back with more meat in future sessions. Shalom.